Generally, when a person is asked to picture a drug addict, the first image that pops into your mind is a person who is unmotivated or too unintelligent to stop the drug use. Now, many experts believe that drug addiction is a disease of the mind as opposed to just a lack of intelligence. As a psychology major, I've studied many of the brain functionings, and we have gone over psychoactive drug use in my classes. Half of adults in the U.S. have tried psychoactive drugs, and 15% of that half have used drugs in the past year. Marijuana accounts for 50% of illicit drug use. Recreational use of prescription drugs accounts for 30%, and cocaine and other hallucinogenics account for about 20% of drug use. Now, to understand these numbers, we must look at the effects of each of these psychoactive drugs. Psychoactive drugs fall under 4 categories, being opiates, hallucinogenics, stimulants, and depressants. Opiates are a drug containing opium or its derivatives used in medicine for inducing sleep and relieving pain. Hallucinogens are a substance that produces hallucinations. Depressants are having the quality of depressing or lowering the vital activities, or in other words, a sedative. And stimulants are something that temporarily quickens some vital process or the functional activity of some organ or part. Now, in order to get better research, I looked on drug forum websites where users could post what they actually felt like when they took these drugs. It's real-world examples, people who have actually taken these types of drugs, and it's just a way to look at it in a different perspective as opposed to the technical definition. I did get these actual definitions from dictionary.com, but these other definitions came from different drug forum websites. A user who had tried an opiate said what they felt like was, imagine all your problems disappearing completely, like being washed from your body. Tension, anxiety, boredom, fear, all gone. Imagine being locked into perfect content and nothing being able to shake that from you. No thoughts or anxieties and nothing. A user who had used a hallucinogen said, slowly I started to feel weird, somehow disconnected, like I was there but not there at the same time. Time has no meaning. My consciousness was outside of time to me. Then the hallucinations came. Depressants. Many people have used depressants, including alcohol. Depressants can also be considered many other drugs, such as the date rape drug. I really didn't want to put one on here because I didn't want to have to talk about something such as a date rape drug, and many people know the effects alcohol brings. Stimulants, one person who used that said cocaine, which is a stimulant, is all about euphoria. First time with good coke should be feeling like you can't handle more euphoria. It's like it can't get more euphoric. It's impossible. It should be a very specific feeling, very hard to describe. It's like bursting pleasure in your head. So, with all of these good symptoms or good effects comes withdrawal symptoms. Many users obviously experience withdrawal symptoms if they stop using the drug. Withdrawal symptoms of opiates include agitation, anxiety, muscle aches, insomnia, runny nose, sweating, yawning, and symptoms of withdrawal from a user who has used a lot of the drug could include diarrhea, dilated pupils, goosebumps, nausea, and vomiting. Hallucinogens. People cannot become physically addicted to hallucinogens, but they can become psychologically addicted. And with psychological addiction, many people feel cravings, fatigue, irritability, and reduced ability to experience pleasure. Depressants, withdrawal symptoms from those include insomnia, weakness, and nausea. For continual and high-dose users, agitation, high body temp, delirium, hallucinations, and convulsions can occur. And for stimulants, withdrawal symptoms include the inability to feel pleasure, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, poor sleep quality, depression, and loss of cognitive function. So, due to these adverse side effects, many of us ask ourselves why these people would use these drugs in the first place. Most of these users describe that they feel euphoria or feel disconnected from their body, which leads you to realize that these people are trying to escape the reality that they live in, which kind of lets you ask yourself why we judge these people so harshly when obviously there's something wrong with their reality to begin with, which is why they use the drugs. Most people also think that it is an easy thing to quit using drugs and that these individuals could just simply stop using it and that it really wouldn't take much. Now, they're obviously just too careless, or they just don't have the motivation to quit. I do have a quote that says, "Drug addiction is a complex disease, and quitting takes more than good intention or strong will. In fact, because drugs change the brain in ways that foster compulsive drug abuse, quitting is difficult, even for those ready to do so." So, even for individuals who say they are ready to quit, most of them generally do not quit, or they fall back into the same habits as before. One point that shows a way to stop drug addiction is to change the environment. There was actually a study done where veterans who had become addicted to heroin during the Vietnam War were brought back here, obviously, and were treated for their heroin addiction. And they also compared them to people who had just become heroin addicts on the streets of the U.S. When the veterans came out of the treatment, most of them did not fall back into their heroin addiction. But on the other hand, for the people who had become addicted in the U.S., most of them fell back into their addiction, meaning that the change of environment was something extremely important. So not only do these individuals have to change their environment or change the people that they are with or go through these withdrawal symptoms, these people have to go through all these things, and also these people have to face the reality that they have created for themselves. And the reality that these people have created is quite terrifying. Drug abuse in the U.S., accounting for productivity and healthcare and crime-related costs, is above $600 billion. $193 billion of that accounts for illicit drugs. Another $193 billion is for tobacco, and $235 billion is for alcohol. Also, other problems that can come up from addiction are family problems, loss of employment, failure in school, domestic violence, and child abuse. So in actuality, we can realize that a rational person wouldn't choose to stay addicted if they had the option to just easily fix the situation that they were in. Which is why addiction is a disease of the mind, as opposed to just a problem that can easily be fixed. Drugs alter the ways of the mind, and it alters the user's way of thinking. Not only is the user affected, but their family is affected. And drugs alter their state of being. A drug addict could be anyone. A drug addict could be a mother, a father, brother, or sister, a neighbor. And most drug addicts start off as just a regular, everyday person who you would never picture would be a drug addict. One quote that I found from a woman named Carolyn Kemp, which greatly proves that drug addicts can be anyone, is, "I used to think a drug addict was someone who lived on the far edges of society, wild-eyed, shaven-headed, and living in a filthy squat. That wasn't until I became one." Okay, how long is that? Did you stop it?